Hi everyone and welcome to Augmintech. So today we are going to talk about some smart space planning tips for stunning interiors. I'm going to show you how you can actually use these smart tips to create the spaces of your dreams. So let's start with it. Number one, we need to understand the space. The most important aspect of interiors comes in when you start to look at a space differently. So, once you look at the space, what are the things that you need to take care of? Let me tell you. Number one, it is important for you to measure the space accurately and get the height depths. So now the first plan, generally what happens is if somebody is coming to you and they're telling you I have a 10 by 10 room or I have a 100-meter square room, that should not be it for you. For you to understand the space, it is important that you measure the complete site along with the doors, windows, heights, whatever is present on the site, you should measure that accurately. So, this is the first step of understanding your space. Second step, analyze room flow, traffic patterns, and natural light sources. Now, what do all of these terms mean? Number one, so if you are entering a space, understand the flow and traffic patterns, which means if I'm entering in a certain space, whatever room it is, how am I supposed to move around the space? So, do I come in and do I move around the furniture? Do I go straight to another door? So, how is the movement happening? This you can understand with the help of function also. So, let's say you're planning a bedroom. Now, you can start to visualize okay, so if I have a bed here, this is how the traffic flow will be in the room. So all of that matters. And the third thing is your natural lighting. So you'll understand where is the natural light coming from and what functions are you going to put there. Then comes the third point, which is visualizing the space with sketches or softwares to experiment with layout. Now that you have understood the detailed plan, you've understood the space, and you've understood the traffic patterns, now you can start to analyze what furniture piece goes where and how are you going to create that sort of a layout. It could be with the help of your softwares, it could be with the help of your sketches. Then the final part becomes prioritizing functionality, prioritize your needs. So once this complete concept of understanding the space, it begins with the site, then it becomes then you are thinking about whatever is available to you, then you start to imagine how the layout is going to be, and finally you will start to maximize functionality. So if I'm adding a, let's say, a study table, or if I'm adding a dresser, what all can the furniture piece do? So while you're understanding the space, you have to take care of these four elements. Now comes the second part. How do you maximize functionality? With maximizing functionality, I mean that whatever space you have, how can you add the best part of it? Like, let's say you have an open kitchen. Now, can you add like a breakfast counter there for the person to have a multi-functionality zone? Or you have a drawing room space, you're adding a study there so that if a person is somebody who wants to work from home, they have a small study area right there. So, how can you maximize functionality is that you create zoned areas. Once you are planning your layout, you plan it accordingly. Like, do not think about the walls, think about creating zones in your head. So, if I have a dining space, so now this space is dedicated for my dining. If I have, another kind of a space, so if I have another kind of space here, so this is my kitchen zone, this is my dining zone, this is my living zone. So, this is how you are going to plan your elements, right? Then if you have a work area or if you have a storage area, it is important that you kind of zone them in your plan. So once you have created your layout, think about which zone is going to be dedicated to what function. So once you do that, it is going to maximize the functionality of the complete space. Now, the next thing that you should do is always incorporate multifunctional furniture. Now, this might be something that is not applicable to everything, but let me tell you, this is the trend of 2025. You are going to get a lot of multifunctional furniture pieces which are going to be great for interiors. So, the first thing is you can have a sofa cum bed. So, now this kind of a material, it could be in any sort of a room. It could be like a spare room that you're providing a family, or it's a family room, or maybe it's a space where you want to create a breastfeeding center in a commercial space. There you can give a sofa bed. So all of this multifunctional furniture is important for you to think of. Second becomes your storage ottoman. So maybe you are creating like storage, small ottomans in the living area. Now what if those ottomans can have some storage? Maybe they have cushions in them. So depending on the function and depending on the use, you can use these kinds of furniture. I'm just giving examples so that you have a better idea of what I'm talking about. Then comes your wall mounted shelves. So if we put anything on the floor, it is going to take up space carpet area wise. So if you start using walls, if you start to add storage units on the wall, it is going to save you a lot of space, and the vertical element of the space also gets used. So wall mounted shelves are a big yes if you want to incorporate multifunctional furniture. And finally, maybe for the chairs, maybe for the furniture, you make it flexible. So not just folding chairs, you can have flexible furniture which can be moved around, played around with. So in today's time, it is not like everybody has a very rigid residence. So there are people who are also inviting guests over, there are people who are working from home. So there are so many scenarios which are happening in your residential scenarios. So there, incorporating multifunctional furniture and flexible furniture brings out the best layout. So that's that. Then let's talk about another point which is important, which is optimize natural light and openness. If you want to create a segment where, a space which has the best quality of light, optimize natural light. So if you have, let's say, a small window, make sure that the light comes through that. You do not want to cover it up. Or if you have a place to add any kind of a skylight, or you have place to add any kind of a extra window, you should do that. Why am I saying it? Because when we have natural light, it makes everything brighter and more vibrant. So even if you are using light tones, it is going to be reflecting on the surfaces, and it is going to bring out the best version of your space. So like if you look at this space right here, what light does to this space is, even if the sofa is so vibrant in orange color, it still looks pleasing to eyes. Why? Because it has a lot of natural light falling in. Then if you want to create openness and the idea of a perfect layout, you can have light colors for walls and floors. So if you use light colors on walls and floors, that is going to create a better kind of a layout for you. Then the third thing that you can do for optimizing natural light is installing mirrors. So if you have, a space which is not very large, you can add mirrors which are going to reflect light for you. So this is something that we do for foyer areas, the entrance areas, a lot of times. So if there is not a lot of space in the entrance, you can add a mirror which is going to reflect a lot of light and optimize the openness of the space. And finally, you should choose furniture which allows light to flow freely, which means do not go for those bulky furniture pieces, because those kinds of furniture are going to have a lot of shadows in the space where with natural lighting. So you want to keep it a little bit minimal. Now, these are the suggestions if you are trying to optimize natural light and you want to create an open space. So bulky furniture, maybe yes, in some cases if you have that sort of a concept, but make sure that you have a big space to do that kind of an experiment. Now, the next thing that we are going to talk about is leveraging visual tricks. Now, what are visual tricks? Let's talk with an example. If you are using mirrors, those are going to reflect light and make spaces appear larger. Same thing you can do with light colors as well. So if you add light colors, it is going to reflect light and create a sense of spaciousness. So these are the kind of tricks that generally interior designers use to create visually appealing spaces. And finally, use vertical lines. If you have a space where the height is not that much and you want to accentuate that, you can create vertical lines on the walls. Maybe you are using louvered panels, maybe you are adding furniture pieces which represent vertical lines. That is going to create a sense of height and openness. A bonus tip is that you can use a lot of white color for your ceiling if you want to add, height to the space. Then the next thing is integrating storage solutions. So when we are talking about layout, see, even if we are looking at aesthetics, even if we are trying to create a very beautiful space, it is not hidden from anybody that every human being needs storage solutions. So we need to maximize storage with custom cabinets and shelves. It is important that you give some built-in cabinets. Even if you're trying to create a very clean and minimal space, it's important that you either create niches or you create built-in cabinets through furniture pieces or whatever to add that kind of maximum storage. Under the bed storage, now this is something which is debatable. People say that we do not need any space under the bed, we wanted to keep it floating or whatever. If you do not have a very specific design requirement, please utilize the space under the beds. Why am I saying this is because if in residential interiors, even though we feel that we do not need a lot of space, there is storage requirement with the growing family. So if you keep those things in mind, you can integrate an under the bed storage, which is a lot of storage if you think about it. Then the last thing is vertical storage. Of course, the walls are your best friends. So if let's say I'm trying to create a kitchen where I want to have the maximum kind of a storage, I can use the height and get loft cabinets created. Now those loft cabinets might not get used on day to day basis, but we can have certain elements added to it. Maybe you have a ladder, maybe you have a place where people can just step up and use the space. So the vertical height is going to give us a lot of volume and a lot of storage option. So this is something that you can integrate in your plan to create the best kind of a space planning. Then you can have personalized decor and accents. So once you are done with your layouting, once you have added the right kind of natural light, once you have added all the multifunctional furniture, now the final thing that you can do is personalize the space. Now you know who you are creating the space for. So if the person is, let's say they love nature and they love certain colors, you can use those kinds of colors and accents. How you can do that is, number one, add art. So personality based art is a very good way to accentuate the space and add that personal touch. Second option is you can add plants. They bring a lot of freshness in the space. So if you want to add, let's say whatever you space you are creating, adding a plant is never going to, never going to dull the space. It is always going to brighten the space. Then comes throws and pillows. This might feel like this is something that is not very important, but trust me, once you create a complete space, these kinds of throws and pillows play a huge role. So even if you have a very beautiful, let's say beige sofa that you have created and somebody just starts putting ugly cushions on it, it is not going to look as good. So the last part of it, which is personalizing with decor and accent, you need to make sure that all of these things happen. And finally, the conclusion is that we need to create a cohesive design which we can do while we are planning the complete space. You have to plan it properly, you have to look at the size, understand the space, provide multifunctional furniture, provide natural light, provide accents and personalization. So once you follow all of these steps, you will be able to create a cohesive design. I hope this video was helpful to you and I hope you learned something or two. Subscribe for more such content. Thank you so much.